Thank you for tuning in to the Natty News Daily podcast. This episode is brought to you in part by our sponsor, Core Nutritionals. You can check out corenutritionals.com for all your supplement needs and use code Natty News Daily at checkout to save 20%. Enjoy the episode.
What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of Natty News Daily. We are joined today by Brant Emhoff, CPC Bodybuilding on Instagram, who has popped up on my feed a lot recently, and I think you're just pumping out content like crazy, man, and the algorithm's getting a hold of you. But Brant likes to talk about classic physique. He clearly has a passion for it, competitive bodybuilder himself, natural competitive bodybuilder, and you posted an interesting kind of series of subject matter on your stories the other day about natural bodybuilding and maybe it starting to fall behind, the enhanced side of the sport as far as maybe taking the top athletes. We've seen Kendall. Most of you guys watching this will know of Kendall, two-time, I believe, WNBF world champion now, but now most recently IFBB Pro. And one of the things that I've noticed with him winning his IFBB Pro card is the now fame somewhat he's gotten, because he's posting it all over his stories with like the reshares and the reposts and the impressions on social media. Like, he's getting millions of impressions on social media now, and thousands and thousands of followers now since he's become an IFBB Pro. And not to take anything away from becoming a WNBF world champion, because that's no small feat, but statistically, when you look at the numbers as far as the publicity he's getting now, it's not even close. So I'm going to open the floor to you, Brant, and let you kind of talk about this a little bit. Is natural bodybuilding in danger of losing its top athletes to the NPC IFBB?
So first off, just want to say thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate, you giving me the platform to talk about natural bodybuilding. As, Leroy mentioned, I'm a natural guy myself. I compete in the NPC. Just for background. I have an outsider perspective when it comes to the natural bodybuilding federations. I have never competed in a natural bodybuilding federation. So I've competed naturally within the NPC. So everything I say here, take with a grain of salt, because I am saying this from an outsider's perspective. But in my view, I do think the natural bodybuilding federations might be a bit in danger in losing some of their top athletes. And not in the sense that people are always immediately choosing the NPC first, but I think what we're kind of seeing at this point is, because people are, winning these world titles, like Kendall, for example, it seems like they're kind of taking things as the natural progression is to, okay, well, I've won this, maybe I need to go over here and win this. So, you're gonna go where the competition is best, right? You want the challenge, and what's cooler than saying, I won an IFBB Pro card? Like, that is the ultimate honor in amateur bodybuilding. And also, I mean, it's monumental that Kendall won, literally, besides the Amateur Olympia, literally the biggest platform in amateur bodybuilding, like the Arnold Classic. I don't know if a natural athlete has ever won the Arnold Amateur, which is just insane to begin with. And I think that's really what justifies all the publicity, because it's just such a rare and monumental achievement. But I mean, I do think there is a little bit of danger in the natural federations kind of falling behind, because given that the NPC is so big, they're kind of capitalizing on that and seeing that there is, this market for natural bodybuilding. People want to be competing as naturals. And because we have these high profile athletes who are competing in the NPC, people are saying, oh, well, I can compete here because the NPC now offers a lot of natural shows as well. And that's kind of one thing I hadn't touched on in the stories that you had mentioned that I put up on my Instagram, was the availability of shows is a big component now when people are choosing to compete in either the NPC or organizations such as the WNBF, the OCB, the IPE, you name your natural federation of choice. As of last year, the NPC put on, I believe, 46 natural shows, 21 in the CPA,
Yep.
13 in the NPC in the continental United States, 9 in Korea, and then 4 elsewhere around the world. So, I mean, the NPC is like seeing that there is a demand for natural bodybuilding, and they're supplying people with the shows. Like, I'll give you guys an example here. Like, I've lived in quite a few places in the States, and what I see is a lot of people in the states that I've lived in have choose NPC shows simply just because they're closer to. Like, for example, Dave Lieberman puts on some really good shows in the Cleveland, Ohio area.
Say Ohio, right? Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And a lot of people, like, there's some really good talent that, I mean, they just jump straight into his shows, like guys who've never competed before. And I mean, these guys would be like world-class athletes in, like, you know, the OCB, WNBF, you name it. But they're just jumping straight into the NPC because the show is like right there for the taking. And I mean, they know the NPC because of the familiarity. So that's just kind of my thoughts. I think availability is a big part of it. What else? I think people are also really attracted to the fact that the NPC athletes get a lot of exposure. And I think branding is something that pays off with the NPC that you might not necessarily see with all the natural federations, because on NPC News Online, which is like the open platform for all of, you know, the CPA, the NPC, the IFBB, you know, show photos, show schedules, everything's just there, and they're showcasing their athletes, they're marketing their athletes, whether they be amateur or pro. And
what's cool, for those that maybe don't know too, that website you can search by name. So when I was looking for content for Natty News, I could type in Kendall, and it would be show photos from, well, it was from because he'd done an NPC show before, and now all his Arnold Classic content would be up there now too, right? So it's quite the, like you said, publicity's huge. Like now, you know, you'd be probably silly to not think he's going to get more business from clients, from coaching. All that stuff matters, right?
Absolutely, man. And, you know, just the availability of having all the show photos online is a big thing too, I think, because it allows you to go and just see all of these people. Like, for example, if I wanted to, like, you know, look at your show photos, Leroy, I could be like, you know, just search it, and just having that availability so tangible. It's like really hard for me to find stuff on natural competitors who are competing in some of the federations, like, other than some YouTube clips out there. Like, there are some you know, footage that I found on YouTube. Like, I think you can find the Yorton Cup footage from like this past year. You can find a couple of WNBF World Championships on YouTube, but other than that, I mean, it's really hard to find stuff on athletes. And I think just having an open platform and putting something out there for people to be able to like grab and like also just showcase the athletes would really, really help out natural federations in my mind.
Yeah. The money behind it's huge, right? And that's, I think, anytime we have this conversation about, you know, something like this, or how do you make natural bodybuilding better, the overarching theme is always going to be money and funding behind it, right? Like the NPC IFBB, like that's your big fish in the pond, right? They have the funding behind it, they have the name branding behind it, all that kind of stuff. And that's why, you know, you see a lot of their shows with the fantastic lighting and the really good staging and the content, the media, like all that stuff. You know, up here with the CPA, like a lot of their shows are very well done because they have the money behind it, or the branding behind it, whatever is supporting it. And, you know, you compare that to some of the natural federations that, you know, have stuff in, you know, like shitty, you know, gymnasiums or whatever, right? Like it makes it hard.
Yeah, that's very true. Probably another thing that's worth pointing out too is kind of the parity between just the shows at the world class level in natural federations as well as those at maybe say the national level for the NPC or even like the CPA. I don't know how many of the viewers have seen these two types of shows, but it's pretty easy to go find the footage of, say, like I mentioned before, like the OCB Yorton Cup, which is the world championship in the OCB. And if you were to compare this to any NPC national show, especially something like, I don't know, like USA's or maybe NPC Nationals. So these are shows that do qualify you for a pro card, but they're still amateurs competing. You're going to notice a really big difference in like you said, Leroy, I mean, money plays a big factor in it in terms of what you can do in terms of show production, right? You can put a lot better stage lighting in, get a better venue if you have more money. So the NPC, because it's a bigger federation and generally has more sponsors, they can afford to do stuff like that. But even just the things that you can control in terms of like actually promoting the show, I personally, as a natural bodybuilder, even when I was still trying to decide whether or not I wanted to compete in the NPC versus the WNBF or the IPE, what have you, I had no idea when any of these natural federations were having shows, like what time of year they are. But just following kind of on the fringes of bodybuilding, I had a general idea of when national shows were for the NPC because they're so vocal about it. They tell you when the shows are. It's like 6 months out. Hey, make sure you guys sign up for NPC nationals. Like, make sure you get that qualification to go.
Yeah.
And that's probably another topic too, in terms of competitive quality. I think something that the NPC has that natural federations kind of have to, it's a tough balancing act that you have to play between having enough people and generating revenue with that show, because you are still putting on a show and you want to be creating some sort of income, right? You know, bodybuilding is a business after all. But I will say the NPC shows from a depth perspective are typically deeper. And I'm not trying to say that there aren't great natural bodybuilders out there, because there is no shortage of natural talent. There are incredible bodybuilders who are natural. And I mean, we've got 3 guys on the call who I think, you know, could go toe to toe with a lot of guys who are enhanced. But the thing is, if you look at a lot of these natural world competitions, you get about 5 guys who are like, wow, they look incredible. These guys can pose, they look like they belong on the stage. And then you get, after, you know, roughly 5 guys, there's like, you know, the rest of the guys on stage, and this
starts to trickle.
Everybody. But like, some of these guys don't even know how to hit a mandatory pose. And like some of them, and you will have the token guy in the NPC who shows up, you know, fat and out of shape. Like, I think, you know, if you guys saw Nick's Strength and Power, there's a guy who showed up who was like a super heavy, and he was like probably like 30% body fat. So there will be the token guy in the NPC who does that. I'm not going to pretend like that doesn't happen, but I mean, the depth of these NPC national shows, I mean, there are guys who like finish in 15th place who are just, I mean, everything is on the money. The only problem is they're just like not good enough to be in that placing. Whereas like, I think the natural shows don't necessarily have like super deep talent. And I think qualification could be the solution to that. Basically, like
we've talked about that before.
Because I'm not sure what the process is for that in the natural federations, but I'm sure there are qualifiers for, you know, example, the WNBF World Championships. There's probably something you have to win to get there, right?
Well, you can go as an amateur as well. They have an amateur and then a pro division. So realistically, like, you could go. I don't know if you have to place like as an amateur to then qualify. Do you know about that, Dan, if that's a thing or not?
I think you do have to qualify as an amateur, but as a pro, I think you might be able to just enter.
Yeah.
I
But
think
that's the
how it
thing,
works.
right? With with the amount of, pros that become pros, because there's, the amount of shows and the quality of talent and stuff like that, you still get that depth of, even at the pro level of, like, you mentioned maybe 5 of them that you're like, God damn, like that's impressive. And then the rest you're like, maybe one an easy show, or it was just a poor quality lineup and that kind of stuff. But Dan, do you know at the Yorton last year the number of competitors off the top of your head,
Last year,
or whatever year you went?
yeah,
If you had to guess.
2021, in open bodybuilding, I think it was like 8. I mean, that it's a little more complicated because it was split into classic as well, but I think it was 8 or 9
Any idea what the total show count was, if you had to guess?
for overall
Like
in
100?
totality. No, more than that, especially if you count female athletes. Like the figure and bikini in those classes were actually, I think, relatively deep.
Yeah, so I asked because like here, like the natural pro qualifier within the CPA, I think last year hit like 300 athletes. And then overall winners get an IFBB pro card, right? So like our nationals up here, you win that, you're legit. Right? So Matt Butali won his pro card there, not last year, but the year before, and he's a unit, right? So that's where, if you have 300 athletes, 10 pros come out of that show, like you're likely looking at some talent showing up on that stage.
Yeah, and I mean you see that too in the NPC worldwide Ben Weeder that's in DC every year, where it's like the one on US soil that's a pro qualifier. I mean, I'm doing that show this year, and I mean the talent that just shows up there is insane. And like you mentioned, there's hundreds of people who do that show because there is like kind of like glamour to the fact that they're giving out an IFBB pro card. Like that's like I said before, the highest honor. And I think something that could really, really benefit natural organizations is like almost like making it harder to go pro, maybe giving out less pro cards, or I don't know, just making it a little bit more exclusive, I think would really, really benefit the organization. Or even something, and this is something that I kind of got from Mark Lobliner. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but
Yeah.
he had this idea where, although I don't like pitting enhanced versus natural, because so I'm one of those people who personally, I don't care whether or not you take PEDs. If you do, that's your choice. It's not a moral decision in my point of view. I think it's perfectly fine to do it. I personally just don't. But there is kind of something cool and buzzworthy. It will definitely get clicks if you see a natural athlete beat enhanced guys. And I think what a lot of these natural federations could benefit from is when people like Kendall go off to the NPC and win an IFBB pro card, marketing them as a product of the Natural Federation, saying this guy came from our organization and went off and did this. You can do this too. Like, natural bodybuilding is legit. It gives natural bodybuilding more ethos and credibility. And I think if they show that the talent is generated there, and even though they might go elsewhere, but also encouraging, you can still compete here as well as natural federations simultaneously, I think that could really increase a lot more interest in natural bodybuilding, in my opinion.
The qualifying stuff, I think, would really make a difference. So like for Canada, it's changed now, but when I first started competing, you had your regional events, then you had your provincial events, then you had nationals. National got a pro card. So there was a 3-tiered system. Now they've done away with that, and you just have your regional qualifiers, top 3 go to nationals, and then you can turn pro from that. But with a lot of the natural federations, every show is a pro qualifier as long as they have the numbers, right? So it could be a show, I'm going to Syracuse in 2 weeks with some clients, and it's a pro qualifier if they have the numbers, right? So that's not to say that there might not be some talent there that are worthy of a pro card, but if you have 40 shows on a calendar year that are all pro qualifiers, you're willing to bet that there's going to be some people that turn pro that aren't pro worthy. Where you take it to the extreme over in the UK, they have 3 or 4 qualifiers and then a finals at the end, and 1 pro comes out of that. They'll have amateur bodybuilding classes 15, 20 deep per class, lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight. So you're that 1 pro that comes out of that, like they're your Kendalls, right? That could in theory probably go to any IFBB show and be a contender for that pro card, right? So the natural federations, one of the problems that I think they have is that they're spread so thin that so many people earn these pro card statuses, whatever, and they don't have to climb any step ladder to get there.
Yeah, I'm curious. Are you referring to the UK DBF or
UK DFBA?
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, so is that you're gonna have to forgive me because I'm not the most familiar. Is that the pipeline into the DFAC or?
No, so there's the UK DFBA, which used to be affiliated with the WMBF.
Okay.
Now they joined the INBA, PNBA.
Okay.
The BNBF, which is the British Natural Bodybuilding Federation, they go to the DFAC.
Gotcha.
A lot of acronyms to throw at you. So, like, for example, do you know AJ Morris? Do you follow him?
Yeah. I know who AJ is.
Yeah, so AJ's like his big goal from, again, if AJ, if you're watching this, forgive me if I'm misquoting you, but his big thing is to win that British final, to win that overall British title. Because winning that title, you could probably compare that over here anyways in North America to winning, some of these natural pro cards, because the standard that you need to be to win that title, like it's phenomenal, right? Like more often than not, if you're winning that British title, you're probably going to the INBA Worlds, the INBA Olympia, and you're probably a contender to win because it is so hard, right? Like I said, if you have 3 or 4 qualifiers the entire calendar year, you have the entire European athlete base that are trying to funnel to this one finals. It's insane, right? Like you look at any of the athletes over there, like it's their next level. A lot of them then come over here to Worlds, or they come over to these, American or North American competitions, and they they kick the door in because they're that freaking good, because to get there, they've had to beat out their entire country.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point too, because there's so much incredible talent that has come out of the UK in terms of natural bodybuilding. Like because the standard has been higher over there, it just seems like it's created a better talent pool almost, because people are attracted to that. So they want to be competing in those federations. Like, I mean, to give examples, like Nathan Williams, Bob Waterhouse, Keefe West, like people like that. Like, I mean, the talent over there is just insane, man. And like, I really think if the Natural Bodybuilding Federations just grab onto that star power and like really just like, because what I see from my just my whole thing, because I cover classic broadly, a lot of these other pages cover the top 5 guys in classic physique. They cover like Chris Bumstead, Ramon Dino, and Terrence Ruffin, Breon Ansley. That's it. You don't see anybody else.
Yep.
And I mean, what I've tried to do is cover the vast majority of everybody else, because there are more bodybuilders than that. But the thing is, the appetite in the sport is for stars. A lot of people who are on the fringes of the sport and really just wading into the sport and kind of not so deep into it like we are, really care about that star power, and that's what attracts them. Now, when they get into the sport further and they might be more involved with it, then they're more like, oh, well, there are other guys out there. But I think the star power thing is something that could really be leveraged to really just create, draw more talent in, but also generate more revenue. I think that's something that could really be really be adjusted.
Yeah.
And social media is just it's the vehicle for that, because all you have to do is just post more about these people. That it's really, it's like, I talk about it like it's, like a simple thing, because it really is. Like, all you have to do is just hammer it home. It's just somebody has to do the work. Somebody has to do the legwork, and it doesn't cost money to post on social media. It doesn't cost money to put stuff on YouTube. Like, I'll give you guys an example. Like, the whole Kendall thing took off because I posted a reel, and I was like, so I covered the show from the front row, had all of the, the stage footage, and I was the one who broke the news. And I posted a reel that took me like a minute to put together. And that's literally just like kickstarted this whole thing that has like all these people, following Kendall. And it doesn't take that much resources. So, like, the natural orgs, I get it. Money is sparse sometimes, but like, it doesn't take all that much work. And I think you guys, especially with the podcast and your page, are really doing that. And like, you guys see that the star power is so incredibly important for the sport, because what you guys are doing is you're putting names and faces together and putting that in people's minds. And when people start to recognize characters and really start to connect with the people who are in the sport, that's going to create a stronger connection. And also just, it's going to draw more people in. And I think you guys have recognized that.
Yeah. I think too, like, a lot of maybe, like, how do I put this? Like, people that are more in line with the NPC IFBB stuff, they're more like out there, you know what I mean? Like, they're doing the vlogs, they're doing that kind of stuff, they're doing Instagram and social media and stuff like that. Like, they're just putting their face out there more. Whereas, like, how many OCB pros are vlogging, or WMBF pros are vlogging, or whatever, right? Like, there's just not that presence out there to then get known. Like, when I did like the weekly vlogs for my prep last year, like, people were following along because they got invested in me and my journey, and I hadn't even accomplished anything yet, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, ticks off these goals or whatever, right? Like, if Kendall started doing a weekly vlog leading up to Pittsburgh, he's doing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then a page like yours, or Buys and Tries, or Bodybuilders Without Borders gets a hold of it, shares it, all of a sudden natural IFBB pro making his pro debut. Like, then all of a sudden you get that media machine behind it. And if more people did that, that would change the game probably.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do with this.
Yeah, for sure.
I try not to make it too much about, because here's the thing. I'm classic physique first and foremost, but I am also a natural bodybuilding advocate, and I want people to know that there is legitimate talent in natural bodybuilding. So, like, the thing that the way I'm trying to, like, show Kendall's journey is like, this guy is a formidable competitor. Oh, and by the way, he's natural. Like,
yeah.
And I think that's the way to do it. It's just like, this guy's a hell of a bodybuilder, but by the way, he's natural.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I'm really hoping this gets, kicked out to the mainstream, because like, I'm still not that big of a page yet. I do have a lot of very credible people who follow me and pay attention to my content, repost my stuff, but and we need like the Nick Strength and Power, or the Nick Trigillis of the world to really get a hold of this stuff. And I think and that is another thing too. I think having people who go over to the NPC and the IFBB create those opportunities, and also really put natural bodybuilding on the map by doing that, because that's what gets the big eyes. The NPC and the IFBB, for better or for worse, do get the most views and have the most eyes on the sport. And that's what's going to draw the media attention. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and it's
awesome,
a lot of
man.
We're looking to, enact change on our end, and encourage shows and promote shows. We're promoting a show ourselves and trying to, do right by the athletes, and put on a good production, and then we're getting involved with as many people as possible that are invested in that same mission. specifically thinking about Mr. America. I don't know if you're familiar with Mr. America, but Mark Torello, who's the promoter of that show, is pumping tons of money and tons of resources into that show. We did the commentary last year. We're going to be doing it again this year. So, very aligned in the mission of putting on a good production, a legitimate production. So, yeah, it's something I think that everyone benefits from. So lots of great stuff throughout this podcast, Brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I appreciate you coming on, man. People want to follow along and help you build that social media following up. Where do they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. Tag is CPC Bodybuilding, and then same thing on YouTube, CPC Bodybuilding.
Sweet.
But yeah, just trying to promote classic physique, also natural bodybuilding. Trying to grow this thing, trying to show people that natural bodybuilders, there is a future in natural bodybuilding, and we are the people who create that future.
Yeah, beautiful way to end this out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, let us know. Give it a like, subscribe for future episodes. Obviously, follow Brant on Instagram, on YouTube, CPC Bodybuilding. We appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.